Hello. The Wikipedia page that I am evaluating is the page for Taejongism, a new religion in South Korea. Looking at this page's organizational structure, the top section of the page gives us an overview of what Taejongism is. Some central beliefs of Taejongism here. It gives us the ideals that the religion supports down here. And it also gives us a brief description of the religion in the past and also some recent times. Up and to the right, we see the information on the Korean spellings and pronunciation of the religion. We also see down here the symbol of Taejongism or Tangunism, a red triangle inside of a yellow square, which is inside of a blue circle. And below this top section, the page has a table of contents which shows us the Wikipedia page is organized into teachings of Taejongism, Samsin, Sinang, history and influences. It has more religions Wikipedia pages here, and it finishes on references, sources, and external links. Now, clicking on references to go down here, we can see that there are many sources referenced, although if you look through them, you might quickly notice that Donald L. Baker's name shows up a lot, and if you look a bit more closely, you'll see that they aren't all the same source. Looking at this all, there is a good number of sources even outside of just what Donald L. Baker has written. And when I looked into specific sources and more directly specific individuals, I found that they should be reliable for use on the Wikipedia page. For instance, Professor Yunshik Chang is a professor in Princeton University, and he is focused on Korea, so it makes sense that he is being cited here as a source. I singled out Donald L. Baker here, so let's quickly go to his page. As we can see here, he is a professor in the Department of Asian Studies at the University of British Columbia. He is a professor in Korean history and civilization. He is the author of our textbook, and he has published several works that are relevant to Korea. And moreover, if you go down here, we see that he's even received rewards for his works, so that in combination with the large amount of them means that it's pretty normal for him to be cited for about 5 different sources that I counted here, so that makes more sense now. Another individual that I looked into was Professor Andre Schmidt here. He is a professor at the University of Toronto. He's in the Department of East Asian Studies, which makes sense, and what's more, he has a focus on 19th century and 20th century Korea. So it's understandable that he was cited for Taejongism's page. He's also written 2 books, both under university presses, that are relevant to Asia, and one of them being specifically relevant to Korea. Now, moving back to this page and going back down to sources, we can see that for 2 of Mr. Baker's books, they were printed and published by university presses, specifically Princeton University Press. So that is a good indication of reliability for these 2 books. What's more, many of these sources can be checked on Google Books to check the information that they list. I actually checked on if the sources were available, and, well, for the first source up here, Korea Confronts Globalization, I was able to find that on Google Books pretty easily. For Korea Between Empires by Professor Schmid, I was able to see that here on Google Books as well, and yep, it was available. And I was also able to find Korean Spirituality, which was actually published by University of Hawaii Press, which is reliable, also on Google Books. So, yeah. When I was checking these sources, I also wanted to check the citations for references up above for references 1, 2, 8, and 9. So up in this top area, I actually just checked some of the information, like for this top section here, down here I believe, and also around here. And what I found was actually very good. They seem to have been accurately cited, and also that these sources held those pieces of information. So, yes. Something a bit concerning, however, was that for reference 3, I had clicked on this link in order to see what was there, and I had forbidden you do not have access to this resource, and that's pretty consistently been like that, so I don't believe that I can check that. In terms of how these resources or references have all been used throughout the page, that's actually been pretty good. If you look closely or just like briefly skim over the page, you'll notice that they are cited all around it. Like many are embedded into the text, and up here you can see that there are many different citations for different books for each thing. I do note that that is not the case for one particular section, the Samsin Sinang section, which only uses one source for the entire thing, source 18, which is concerning. Now, when I was fact-checking and using external sources, I fact-checked the claim up here that Taejongyo has an emphasis on the national identity and unity of the Korean people. In order to fact-check this, I used our textbook's further reading section and found the source Na Chol and the characteristics of his national movement. Pardon me. Aside from this source, I looked in our school's library search catalog, and I found another source, The Modern Korean Nation, Tangun and Historical Memory in Late 19th to Early 20th Century Korea. Luckily, both sources were available to me online through the International Journal of Korean History. Moreover, I was able to find the information that the founder, Na Chol, had founded the religion after being inspired by the role of religion in bolstering national identity and unity for Japan in his first time visiting Japan over in this book. And what's more, Tangun, the worshipped deity of Taejongyo, was already a figure in Korean myths that had become a symbol for unity and a community connected through blood in this article. As such, these sources both reinforce the claim that Taejongyo is a national religion, or is a religion that has an emphasis on national identity and unity in Korea. Although, in regards to organization, this page has a lot of information at the top that could have been distributed into smaller sections below and just put into a table of contents. What's more, Samsin Sinang is very small, and it only has 2 sentences, or about 3 sentences, about a very specific Dangunist sect. What's more, there should be around 17 of these sects, but only this one has a section for it on the page. And I mentioned earlier that this this section is only using one source. So out of curiosity, I googled the source, the author, and the institution that published it, and you can look down to see this is the individual and the institution. With regards to this, the source here, the emergence of national religions in Korea, you can see that the original place it was taken from was a .org website, which is less reliable than a .edu website. And when I was looking through the text, it said things like our in it and we, so that was a bit concerning to me because that could be indicating a bit of bias, though the individual does have doctor on his name, but I don't know what university he's from because I wasn't able to find him when I looked him up on Google, and I couldn't figure out anything about this academy either when I looked it up, so that's concerning. The text itself was also written in broken English, and you saw here that it has this weird view thing. For some reason, my page is mostly obscured, but regardless, it has broken English, which makes me assume that the author originally wrote it in Korean and it was translated directly into English, which might be why I'm not able to find information about the author. Still going back to the section on Samsin Seinan, it is very short and direct, and while this information doesn't seem like it be false, the source does not inspire confidence in me that it is true, and as for whether or not it's relevant to the page, it doesn't seem very important, so it seems like it could be very easily removed and not take away anything substantial from it. Now, at the top of the page, in the talk section, we'll see that these comments aren't particularly substantial, or at the very least, they don't seem to dispute any key information. This one we can throw away. This one is just disputing a specific wording. And this one is just saying, like, I modified an external link, so this doesn't seem to be very problematic. What's more, when I go to history, the history did not indicate any particularly... this is the history for talk. The history did not seem to indicate any particular conflicts or controversies with regards to any dispute. So, to summarize, this page's organization was somewhat messy. Parts of the page could be reorganized and some parts could be removed to make the page easier to follow. Despite that, the table of context is almost clear if we just change a little bit of the organization. So I would call the organization for this page a C-. The quality of the sources was good for the most part. They are mostly written by experts in the field, though some of the sources were inaccessible or questionable in the case of Sinang or Samsin Sinang. Regardless, there is a vastly greater amount of focus on the good sources, and they were focused on throughout the article with many citations. I would give this page's sources an A-, actually. The information on the page was accurate and relevant from what I could tell, though there was the section of Samsin Sinang which was out of place and I was not really able to understand why it was there. But still, I would give the information an A- on this page. And when checking for bias, I do note that Samsin Sinang was an oddity on the page that may have had some bias towards it, but removing that, there was also that many of the sources were from Donald L. Baker, if we go back down, because that stuck out to me immediately. Though Donald L. Baker is also a reputable scholar, so that shouldn't be too large of a problem. And that was the Tajolism Wikipedia page. Thank you for your time.